Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Worth Expressing. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have very special guest, Tiffany Skylark. Welcome to the podcast, Tiffany. How are you doing?
Hi, good. Thanks. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Before we really get started, can you share with the audience what is your form of creativity?
Well, personally, it's fantasy writing. Um, that's what I like to do mostly. I don't know. I just find that it's a good outlet, because I feel like when you're an artistic or creative person, if you don't express that, you kind of feel like you're suppressing something and stuffing things down, and it's one of those things that just kind of has to come out sometimes.
Mm. For this episode, this podcast episode, me and Tiffany, we agreed to discuss the importance of the fantasy genre. So we're going to be talking about the fantasy genre, and also we're going to be mentioning the work that you, Tiffany, have published, specifically the Roque Wheel Saga. So we're going to get
You
into that
got it.
in this episode. Um, so let's start off with maybe defining, at least for you, like how do you define the fantasy genre?
Well, it's tough because even there are certain like things, different genres set up. Like I like epic fantasy, which means it encompasses like a whole world and traveling long distances, big, huge war scenes. I mean, there's different types, but that's kind of where my focus is. I like the world building. I like to create. I've never created an entire language, but I like to create words. I like to create the entire setting. In the Rokuyo Saga, for example, there's a world map in the beginning because the characters travel from up north, they go all the way down south, they go over to other continents. Um, so for me, epic fantasy has always been my call. Like I say, there's other sub-genres of fantasy that you can get into, but that's kind of my area of expertise.
So, in your world of let's stay on the Rokuyo saga for a moment. Is it planet Earth? Is it another planet?
It's a fictitious planet where it starts out, and the human beings there are elves. So they're pretty much like us, but they have, most of them have the pointed ears. Roqueal's kind of different because his ears are rounded, so he gets made of fun of for that. But no, it's a planet called Catharian that I made up. Later on in the series, there's three books altogether, but there are beings that come from other fictitious planets. They end up themselves traveling to other planets, so it doesn't even stay in one world. Like it's multi-planet, multi-world, multi-solar system.
Okay. And another thing that I think in one of the books, there's also a like a calendar system.
Yeah, I did make up this the months. There's a 13-month calendar system. I made up different days of the week. And so obviously, they're speaking English because that would be too difficult to just make up an entire language, I thought. So you're going to have different, in the front, there's an index. It'll tell you, this month equals the first, second, third, fourth, this day of the week equals this. You can kind of orient yourself. But I do like that part, Tolkien he invented like multiple languages and the elves had their own, which I just think is amazing, but I don't have time for that. So I just made up, I just made up the months of the year, the days of the week. Their calendar system was a little bit different. I wanted to add some of my own elements that wouldn't take as long as developing a whole language.
So, pop quiz, can you Do you remember the calendar that you made?
I don't. I could look at I've got the book here to show you, and I wouldn't be able to say them in order, so no, I'm terrible. I can't, I don't know.
So that's
I'll have
that.
to look at my own index again.
So this is a reason why, for those who are listening, this is a reason for you to get the book, so you can
There you
also
go.
get the calendar. Now let's kind of go back and see the huge picture of this discussion of the importance of fantasy. So like for you, like how do you distinguish the difference between fantasy, the act of fantasizing, and imagination? Would you say it's the same thing, or are you able to distinguish the differences in the terms?
For me, it's pretty much the same. I mean, I have a story for you. So that'll kind of illustrate this. So this happened maybe 15 years ago or so, is a while back. And I can't for the life of me remember what movie it was, but I remember I had just seen this fantasy film, some film. And I was talking to a friend about it and how much I liked it and how cool it was and that he should go see it, on and on. And he goes, I don't like those kind of movies. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, the ones with like the monsters and the fairies and things that could never happen. Like, I only watch things where, it's realistic, like stuff that could actually happen. And I was just like taken aback by that. And I was also like slightly offended at the time, like, what do you mean? Because to me it's almost like a form of escapism. People have their different ways of coping with the difficulties of life, and for me one of those ways is either reading or writing or watching fantasy movies, because to me the imagination is just an awesome thing and tool. Like, you can think about anything and then create it and show other people through, like I say, either, oral storytelling, writing, movies, and I like things that are, for the most part, happy and bright and funny and a bit better, things that work better than our world. And so I kind of hate like movies where things could actually happen. I hate movies with violence. I hate movies with war. I hate watching like true crime documentaries, because it's like there's enough of that. Like, I know that happens. Like, you hear the news all the time. We're bombarded with that stuff. Why, like, to me it makes no sense to then go and want like more of that. And so I'm like, I'm better about it now, like respecting other people's opinions and, people. But it was such a shock to me that somebody thought that way, because I'm totally the opposite. I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to watch it because it couldn't actually happen? Like, that's the whole point. Like, how far can your imagination stretch? What sort of world, language, scenarios can you storylines can you come up with? And that's like the fun of it. And I kind of realized, some people drink, some people smoke, some people do gamble, do all sorts of things to cope or numb themselves. And so I was like, that's probably a pretty good like coping mechanism, that I have, the reading and writing, as far as, not being detrimental to myself or harmful to other people. But it's definitely, like I say, a form of escapism. That creativity, if I didn't have it, it's some like I can't even imagine. Like, that's the way I cope with things, and so I had to understand like other people cope with things in other ways. And some people just don't understand it. They don't use their imagine. I mean, everyone has an imagination and thoughts, but they don't use it in that way.
Mhm.
And just like being okay with it, because just me being the way that I am, it was hard to understand that there's people that are complete opposite, and they don't need that. literally to live, you know? Like they're fine without, making up these worlds and these stories and these characters. So just
So,
depends on the person, you know?
so I have a confession to make. I
Yeah, what's
was
that?
I was that guy.
You were?
I mean before, like as a kid, I did like, well, I did like Goosebumps. I mean, but I didn't see it as fantasy. I just saw it. I mean, I know it's fan. I mean, it's fake. It's a fake realm. It's
Yeah.
all fake. But I saw it more like as a joke. Just like I mean,
Mm.
as a child, just a way for me to just kind of pass the time. But as I got older, I kind of stepped away from literature, and I saw it more as like childish. And I remember it was, I think, was it 2000 or 2001 when Lord of the Rings came out?
2000, I think, the first one.
No, I think it was in 2001. I think it was
Was it?
2001.
It was
And
one of those. Okay.
it was like in December, like right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was after the 9/11. Yeah,
Okay.
it was right after the 9/11.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in Montreal, and my cousin was taking me around over there, and he's like, "Hey, we're going to the movies." I was like, "All right, let's watch. Let's watch." I think I was like, "What's the?" Anyways, it's like, "Let's go watch a movie, or we're gonna go watch Lord of the Rings." And I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is this is it's so fake. Where you see fairies and what's it? I didn't
Hobbits and yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. I was like, when you see like little fairies and warlocks, like come on."
Yeah.
And then I watched the movie, and it's all like in French with the French subtitles because we're in
Oh, okay.
Montreal.
Yeah.
And as I'm watching it, it's not real. I mean, it's not a real. I mean, like your friend, like he wants real stuff. But even though this is fantasy, it's like, man, this really, it's like it has courage, it has obstacles,
The
a, f-
emotion. Yeah.
it has the emotion. And I mean, towards the end, I was so upset. Do you know why I was upset?
Why?
I had no idea there's a book two or book three.
Oh.
So I was like, man, this is like the worst ending ever, man. This
Oh,
sucks.
right. Cliffhanger.
I didn't know it was a cliffhanger. So like that, I mean, because I went away from fantasy. But like you're saying, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. That people have their own ways of escapism, and a lot of people they have fantasy, and it really like just opened the world of courage, of bravery. There's also bits of romance, sacrifice. I mean, wow. But that was when I kind of started getting back into the fantasy world. For
Okay.
you, when were you sucked in to the fantasy world? Was it a book, movie, game?
Gosh, it's funny you mentioned that movie because it was probably that movie for me too. Like, I mean,
Mm.
I'd always been interested in the genre, but I wasn't really into reading things that were older. So if somebody would have told me about Tolkien before, I'd been like, oh, that's really old and it's going to be boring and terrible. But I went and saw the movie, and that was the most like profound cinema experience. I was so drawn into it and just so captivated. I'm pretty sure I saw that at least 3 times. Like every weekend, I'd be like to my mom, "Can you please drop me off at the movies? Like I have to see this again."
You've only
So,
seen it three times?
well, I saw it in the theater 3 times.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, each one, like the first one 3 times, the at least. And then, of course, when the DVDs came out, I got the DVDs, the extended edition, and would just watch those on loop constantly. And I'm like, oh, like these guys that were writing back decades ago, that can be good, maybe some of the words, maybe some of the might be a little bit difficult to go through. I mean, Tolkien does describe, he can go on pages and pages just describing a tree, which people don't do these days. So you've got to focus, which is good because nowadays, people's attention spans are so short and getting even shorter because of like TikTok, you're just scrolling video after video after video. So it takes a certain, you have to get back into that mindset of back when, you'd sit on your front porch and there was no TV and all you had was to sit around reading, and where reading about this tree for pages and pages was the entertainment and was captivating. So of course, seeing that first movie got me into reading the books. And nowadays, I was just mentioning, how he invented these languages, and I would look up, I mean, he would make up these languages, right? And then he would name his characters based on, words like, Arwen. I think Arwen is an actual English, it was like a boy's name,
Mhm.
but it means like royalty and nobility. So that was from English. But some of the other ones, like I think Aragorn, he was part elf, and his name means something like nobility, kind of similar to Arwen in Elvish. So he would like make up these languages and then name his characters words from these other languages. I mean, it's just, you can keep like the complexity just is astounding.
Well, I was saying, I didn't expect us to go like down the rabbit hole of Tolkien, but I was seeing that I think it's that like the book is supposed to be like a translation, like right
Mm,
where Bilbo or I don't know, dude. Like, man, I mean, I'm not sure which one of them wrote it, and
Bilbo,
then
yeah.
and
Hmm.
then it's being translated into English. So like
Right.
their names, Frodo, Bilbo, these are all, I guess translated into the English language, but
That's
from this
another layer, right?
but from this fake language. I mean, this invented language.
Right,
Yeah.
that he made up. And yeah, that was definitely the start of kind of the direction of my writing, probably was those movies for sure. So I'm glad that they kind of open up your eyes. You must have been, were you a teenager then, or you must have been pretty young?
I was 2002. I was I think 15.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, shoot.
So, like that.
Yes, I was 15. Yes.
No, I mean,
No.
for people our age, oh my gosh, those movies. I mean, obviously there were people that didn't care and didn't pay attention to it, but I mean, I always wish, like, sometimes people will say if there's one movie you could like experience again, like, wipe your memory of it and then watch it again. I always like get teary-eyed. Like, I wish I could watch that again for the first time because it's like magical. Like, I've never before or since had an experience like that in the movie theater. I'm always like hoping, I was like, oh, The Hobbit, maybe that'll be. It wasn't that, nothing since then has been the same.
Did you like the Hobbits, the movie?
I liked it. It's just I've probably only seen them, once or twice. I mean, with that, it was kind of tough because they are sort of kids' books, and The Hobbit's pretty like
Then
short. It's small, and they had to stretch it out into these three. So I didn't like them as much, but the visuals, were great, and I watched them, of course. It just wasn't the same as the originals.
I haven't watched the third Hobbit movie yet.
No,
No, I don't know. Like if
get
I
on
don't know if
that.
I should because I mean it's like in part two, it's like they already, spoiler for those who don't know the story.
Right, yeah.
Even though it's
Spoiler
like
alert.
it's a pretty old. I mean, it's not old, but I mean it's
You
already
you
well
should have
known.
seen it by now. Right.
Yeah, it's like, or like they maybe read it, or maybe. Anyways, the dragon Smaug is he's been slain. He's dead. So now the third movie is like, man, it's gonna be like a how long is the movie? An hour and a half, 2 hours?
Oh, at least they're all pretty long. Yeah.
It's like, do I want to watch this? It's like, I mean, I've read the book already, like a couple times. It's like, do I want
Yeah.
to? It's like, is it? Well, now I'm asking you, should I watch it?
I think so. Yeah, definitely watch it. I mean, I think your expectations are at a good. a good level. Definitely check it out. But something, there's that Amazon series, and I haven't watched
Oh,
that or felt any.
the
The
Rings of Power.
Yeah, have you watched that?
I watched the first season, and I'm a positive guy, so it's like
Yeah.
it's gonna pick up. I mean, there are things that I didn't really maybe with Galadriel, but then it's like because I try to hear other people's like perspectives and like all around. I try to be like in the middle and just hear everyone out. And some are saying, well, she's not like you can't expect Galadriel from thousands of years ago to be the way she is in the movies because in the movie she's already older and wiser and
Mm.
in this part she's still and it's like I mean I don't know, it's like I don't know and I haven't watched season two, so maybe that speaks.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe I'm just nervous, but I feel like the newer things, they tend to take more liberties and change things and make it more modern maybe, but I like things that just stick closer to the original material, you know. I'm like, don't change anything.
Well, like I have you read like the Silmarillion and
Yeah, a long time ago.
so it's like I don't really want to have an opinion because I mean I've read it such a long time ago and there was what's the other one? There's another book that Tolkien wrote. Anyways, it's like
Ton of them.
since I'm not so fresh, it's like I don't want to make like statements. This
Mm.
movie is not close to the book. I mean,
Oh, yeah, if you haven't read it recently, yeah, that
yeah,
makes
so
sense.
I don't want to, but it's like it doesn't have. I don't think the soul that
That's yeah,
the movies had
right.
from the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit. I'm gonna put that aside for now. The movies, but like with okay, something I loved about the movies was you have the music, you have good acting, great makeup, and I'm sure they have that too as well in the Rings of Power. But it's just the way. I mean, it was just
They were
you,
so dedicated. I mean, they moved to New Zealand. They were there for at least like a year and a half and then kept, coming back for reshoots, but they were there and they all lived in apartments close to each other. And there was so much attention though to detail. You know how they had like the big hairy hobbit feet? Like they would put those on them and glue them and match the skin color and have them be for every single shot even if they weren't going to be seen, like everything, like so much attention to the costumes and like there'd be details on the inside of their coats that you'd never see, but the actor would feel. And I don't know if things nowadays are more just of like a money grab or if because I doubt they put that kind of attention to detail in the newer things, you know?
well, they spent like 1 billion, I think, or maybe I don't know, man. I'm just putting out that number out
Yeah,
there. But
some big number.
they put out and then you have also like Game of Thrones, which was a huge production. Have you read the books or watched that series?
No, like I've never had HBO. I feel like I saw like one episode maybe, and like you hear about people talking about it, but I haven't really watched it.
I with the Game of Thrones, we're not going to talk so much about it since you haven't
I
seen
mean, it
it.
looks good.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very more for set for adults themed, not like
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. It's not like Narnia.
It's a
Um,
lot more graphic, right?
yeah, but just the last season, just a little under. I mean, it didn't. I don't think it hit the same caliber as the other seasons, but it was a great show. I have it. My favorite show is actually Breaking Bad,
Oh, really? Okay.
and the next probably be maybe Game of Thrones. But are there any other movies or books, TV shows within the fantasy realm that you've watched over the years that you've enjoyed and are able to talk about?
Oh gosh. Well, there's Harry Potter, of course. That was another one where I saw the movie first and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," and then got into the books afterwards. With that one, I was kind of like being rebellious, like it was so popular, like I'm not gonna read it, just I'm gonna read like small, little indie stuff. But I saw the first movie and then one of my brothers was telling me about the books. So I got into that. And it's one of those things where there's a lot of fantasy books and movies that are more geared towards kids, but and you can watch it and enjoy it and get out a lot out of it as a kid. But when you reread it or rewatch it as an adult, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many layers to this, and you get the themes of, friendship and loyalty and whatever it is that the writer's trying to portray. But I think that's interesting. Even if you read a series and then reread it a year or two later, being more mature, having gone through more things, you get more out of it. And you're like, how didn't I catch this the first time? Or I didn't mean the same thing to you. Like the Little Prince is a good one
Oh
where
yeah.
kids can watch it and you just see this kid who's traveling to different planets, but then you as an adult you read it and it's like you get those themes of loss and connections, things because you haven't experienced as a kid, so you don't really pay attention to it or notice it as much. So I think there's a lot of value in rewatching things, rereading things because you'll get more out of it each time.
Yeah, with Little Prince, do you remember? Did you watch the movie or just read the book?
Um, I think just watched the movie with that one.
Oh, you just watched with Gene Wilder.
I think, yeah, I think it was.
Do you remember any of the animals that he talks to? Do you remember like what the story was about? I mean, I know he's like, I know the writer was a pilot, and I think he died through a plane crash.
Yeah, yeah, that one I know. It's another one I've seen a while ago, but it's like you watch it once and then you watch it again, and I just remember like, why didn't I catch this before? Like
Hmm.
I don't know. That's a good one, but
And there's a newer movie too.
yeah, I think that there's been a
Oh,
few versions of
yeah,
that one. I don't think I've seen the newest one. Have you?
I did. I mean, it's been a while, but it's with I think James Franco. I think he's the voice
Yeah,
of the fox. So you have the fox, and
the animated one. Yeah,
but you have what do you call it? World building there.
yeah.
Have you read Beowulf? Would that be considered fantasy
Beowulf.
or?
Yeah, I think so. There's a movie to that. I've seen the movie to that too. That was really cool. I remember, like with like the long houses and seeing like I remember them being like really cool costumes. That one's a little bit darker, but I remember liking that one and watching it a few times. I think that's considered part of the fantasy genre
'Cause I
for sure.
think, if I'm not mistaken, that uh, well, supposedly Beowulf is kind of like I guess inspiration to The Hobbit, and that
Oh, yeah,
I
I think I've heard that before too. Yeah, that could be.
and I read that like The Hobbit is like supposedly, according to I don't know who, I don't remember, but supposedly it's like a fan fiction
Oh,
version
really?
because it's like, you have the Hobbit going in next to the dragon and getting the ring, and I don't know, but I
That
th-
could be. Yeah, I don't know if I've heard that, but that makes sense.
but we see how fantasy can have like a ripple effect. I mean, every
Yeah.
genre has this ripple effect, going back
Yeah.
to Beowulf to C.S. Lewis,
They're remaking the
Tolkien.
Iliad. Have you seen that too? Like Matt Damon's gonna be in the version of the Iliad. I think it's called the Odyssey or something. Like he's gonna be Odysseus. Like, isn't that? I think that the Iliad's like the oldest, one of the oldest known stories ever, like that we have. Still.
Which one is the Iliad?
That's
Greek
oh
Greek Greek
gosh.
mythology. It
Yeah,
was
that's the
it
one.
was it the one
I have to almost look.
written by Homer, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's part of there's like a bigger long story, and then they take this shorter version of him when, I mean, of course there's battles and things and that are going on, but that was, I think, the that started a whole, genre. And then you get nowadays like lots of magic, and there's lots of things with elves, and there's lots of things with,
Oh,
that even after Harry Potter, I've seen a lot of books and series of, kids in magic schools that kind of took, they take on their own life, but like, oh, it's definitely because of this person had this idea. So yeah, deaf people, it's hard to completely come up with, completely original world and completely original ideas. So you kind of, it's fun to take pieces from other things. And of course, the storyline, you don't want to copy people or plagiarize anything. But, the elements, I think you can see through time where people are kind of focusing on one thing. I mean, you might get somebody who like jumps back and reads old things and then incorporates it. Um, and I like thinking about the that idea of layers too, because there's even Isaac Newton, I think. There were these old like myths and legends that he would read, and he became convinced that the story, different elements and people and things had to do with alchemy. And if you
mm.
figured out the riddle in this myth, you could that it had to do with alchemy, and that you could, make this certain substance if you followed the formula. And so he read it and he became convinced of this, and he tried these experiments, and they did work, and he's like one of the only people to have figured this out. So even in like the Bible and different stories, like they can have, like, that's what I'm talking about with
Yeah.
layers. Like kids can read it and get something out of it, and then an adult can get something out of it. And sometimes there's like layers that are like way up here. Like who's going to think of each element in a story has to do with chemicals and mixing them together? Like that's what's interesting to me, like going back and rereading and with like a certain focus in mind, maybe like, oh, I'm going to focus on this or trying to figure out this. And
I love
that's fun to do
I
too.
I love what you're saying because I brought up Beowulf thinking that's like a long time ago, and then you drop Greek mythology, which is even like way before,
Yeah, you
and
keep
then
going back. Right,
and then,
right.
and then you go back to the Bible and creation and or whatever. I mean, you see how someone can get a copy of a book and it can have like that layer. And for me, I see creativity like a timeline. We see like as time goes on, we see how different people may pick up some things from different authors or different like genres. And going to like let's say Greek mythology, there is it's a mythology, and it's very interesting to see you know these Greek writings have their mythology, have their bunch of stories, and how people can grab on from that. For you as a writer, now going to you, do you see your writing, your books? Uh, does it have its own like mythology in it, or could you see that happening?
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's one of the things that I like about fantasy is that you can, I mean, with stories that are just chronicling, autobiographies or crime stories that actually happened. Okay, it's like this was this person's name, and this was the city's name, and this is what happened. It's just laid out like that. But in fantasy, you can build these layers. For example, like characters' names. I like to, when I'm reading books, look up characters' names, because a lot of times it'll be based on, sometimes their personality traits, or sometimes it just fits them. Sometimes it doesn't mean anything and the writer
Mm.
just made it up. But that's the cool thing. You can just make it up. But sometimes there's foreshadowing, or it tells you something about their past. Like for example, I have this army general in mind named Bran, and I named him Bran because in Norwegian that means fire. and towards the end of the book, you find out that when he was a little kid, he was involved in a fire that killed his parents. And it kind of explains why he's such a jerk nowadays because he had this big trauma when he was a kid. And so when I find myself doing that, and then in the books I read now, I look up the names a lot of times because it might have some foreshadowing. It's that name for a reason. The person got to think about it and formulate it. And so it's not just going to be a coincidence. It's going to have some sort of meaning to it. And so I like to look up the names in and in regular, just true, this actually happened story, you're not necessarily going to get that unless, the names have been changed. Um,
So
I don't know. That's just,
this is interesting because we are bringing about the importance of fantasy and for the writer uh, to find to make up a name but have a meaning, and for us as the readers to kind of maybe like be like detectives and
yeah.
trying to find the meaning. Um,
I mean, like
like
you can read it and like that's the first character's name, whatever, not get anything out of it, but you can go deeper. You can look it up and be like, oh, what does it mean in this language? Or what does it mean in this language? Or you can read it and look it up, read the whole thing, and be like, oh, that makes sense because of this happened then.
okay, so like in the Rokuyo saga, we have of course Rokuyo, we have Sabio.
Which
Um,
in Spanish, you know what that means.
what does it mean?
It
To
means like wise.
okay.
Somebody and he's like an elder and he's very wise, so that's where his name came
That's
from.
what I was thinking. Is that intentional or is it like
Yeah,
just
I totally, yeah, it was.
okay? How about the is it or who else? Who I can't remember the characters' names. Who are the characters?
Well, Roquil, the main character, that I thought I just kind of made it up, like it kind of just dropped into my head one day, and I was like, okay, that's what it's gonna be. But then I looked it up actually after I had decided because I thought I had just made it up and it was probably nobody's name. But I typed it into a Google search and like some people, the only thing that came up was that some people think that that's the name of one of the archangels. Which kind I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense because I mean, in the beginning, he's very flawed, but throughout the story, he grows up and does become this sort of angelic figure. So I was like, it fits. Sometimes you don't even know why you pick things and it ends up like fitting perfectly. So, I mean, some of the names, like they're kind of random. Like you just pick them because in your mind, that's what they look like. But that's, like I say, the beauty of fantasy. I mean, maybe it means nothing. Maybe it just fits their personality. Maybe there's some sort of foreshadowing in there. You just never know.
Now I want to go with objects because every fantasy has their tools, their objects. In your fantasy kingdom world, are there any specific objects or tools that are used by the characters?
Yeah, there's one object that comes into play, I think, in the second book that plays a big part. It's actually, I don't know if I've got my book here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's down here. It's this little doohickey thing right here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
But what it is they find it in a cave where this alien society that used to rule this planet, they stashed a bunch of they were a high technology society versus these elves are not. They're more in touch with nature. But they find in these caves one of the pieces of technology are these little things that you put it in your hand. It's got this big red button on top, and when you push it, it produces like a protective field around the person. I mean, you can have two or three, like a protective bubble, and it can't be penetrated by, people can't attack you, you can't run a sword through it. So it's like this protection shield. And that comes into play a lot because these extraterrestrial aliens, whatever you want to call them, they end up coming back and they use their own technology against them because they don't have a whole lot of defense. I mean, they're in touch, they live in the natural world, and these guys have weapons and spaceships and these suits, armored suits that they wear. And so it's one of those things that I like the idea of them using their own technology against them in like a good way, in a positive way. You know, people will gather up together close, and two or three people will be in one of these protection shields, and then you push the button again, and it goes away, and you can kind of just like put it into your pocket. So that's one thing. In the first book, there's this crystal that's kind of the focus. It's called the Life Stone, where they're the only way their planet is alive is because this crystal is channeling the energy of their creator, their god, I guess you could call it. And every once in a while, there's a phoenix that's protecting it, and every once in a while, that phoenix dies, and when that dies, you have to put a new stone in place because the former stone was kind of connected to the former phoenix. But anyway, yeah. So in the first book, the life stone, which channels the energy, is very important. And then the second and the third book, these protection devices and some other elements of technology. And a big element of it too is that they learn to use their minds as a way of of fighting, and they learn how to kind of I mean, they can do different things, but like twist people's veins in the so they can kind of cause pain or do something else to their enemies. They learn to use their minds in sort of telepathic and um different ways. So in the third book, there isn't so much of an object, but they learn to use their telepathic abilities in this fight against this other group.
Like for you personally, like do you have like a favorite fantasy item, object, or like a fantasy power that you wouldn't mind
Oh
having?
gosh. Ever since I saw The Lord of the Rings and started reading the books, like I would have dreams about the ring. Like I had the ring and I like was super stressed out because I had to keep it secret. And I would like sew it into my backpack, and that was like my place where I thought that nobody could find it. And I was like, I you could buy these little cheap like gold. I mean, it was probably just plastic, but it had like the inscription, on the ring. And I'd like wear it around my neck sometimes. So, yeah, the ring from the Lord of the Rings, like there's all sorts of different rings, and there's ones that the elves would wear, and the main ring, the gold one with the writing is the only one I've ever had. But I've definitely looked up, on Etsy and places, people will make copies of like Arwen's ring and this, the different rings of power. And I've been tempted, to get those, but
Ooh.
I love that idea. I
Have,
It's funny thinking about that, those stress dreams I would have about trying to like keep the ring hidden from
so do
the
you
bad guys.
do you still have the ring?
I don't think so. I haven't been able to find, I think I've had more than one, and I used to keep them in a jewelry box. And I can't find that jewelry box, so I don't know. It might be at my parents' house or something, but I don't know where they are right now. Just like not that long ago, I was thinking about getting another one because I can't find them, but I don't know if I will. Kind of feels like just wasting money, but I
Um,
like it.
but hey, it's part of the imagination. It can be also like a hobby, you know. And
Yeah,
I think hobbies and having something to look forward to, even if it's just buying a ring. I mean, it can be fun, you know.
yeah.
And it can be also, I think, healing for somebody. Maybe it's
Oh, yeah,
something
for
to look
sure.
to look, and it also gives you like a sense of power. I mean,
Yeah,
even though I mean it's just a ring. Like you
I know
said,
what you mean.
it's it's just plastic. But
Well, it's having that, you read this book and it's like you're pulling out this physical element,
Yes.
and now it becomes part of your real like physical world, and yeah, it can be definitely a special thing, I think.
Um, so will you throw it into the fires of Mordor?
I don't know, man. If I get another one, I'm gonna hold on to it. I don't want to lose
Would,
another one.
would you hold on to it, or you think you would throw it in the fire?
Oh, if I was actually like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
I'd probably want to get rid of it. I'd probably want to get rid of it because it, did some pretty gnarly stuff to those guys. So I think if I was there, I'd probably be able to toss it, unless it like took me over too much. But I like to think I would have the courage to destroy it.
So let me ask you this: Who would be? This is a personal question. Who would be your Samwise Gamgee? Who would be the one helping you
Ooh,
walk up that Mount Doom?
that's a good question. I mean, Samwise was pretty good. I mean, he embodied all those, he was loyal, and I mean, they obviously had a deep love for each other. I don't know. I mean, I think that's in the real world like a pretty rare thing to be like, this person would be my ride or die. They'd be there no matter what. Like, I would almost like have to pick like a fictional person because are there real people that are that dependable? I don't know.
How about from
I would take Samwise. I would take him too. He was
you would take him
perfect.
too. He was a good but would you have Golem as the navigator?
Ooh. They kind of had to trust him. I'd be like, maybe is there like somebody else that knows these roads? That was tough. I mean, because he was a shady character, but they had to trust him. They didn't have a choice. I'd rather have somebody else for sure.
So for you, like for your as you were writing your characters and you wrote a part there of a character who's a bit like a double agent kind of and because you mentioned Gollum just a moment ago how they had to trust him and the difficulty there. Where did you find the inspiration to write the character and the story? I don't want to spoil it, but to write the story the way it went.
I think, I mean, there's an element of just wanting to make things more real and more complex. I think it was about adding complexity because people are complex and people can fool you and
Mm.
people can present themselves one way but have a completely different loyalty. I mean, you can find that in a lot of different situations, but there was one character who was, pretending to be good but working for the bad, and one that was kind of pretending to be bad and working for the good. So one on each side. But yeah, I just think it just made it like more real to me.
It kind of reminded me of the movie The Departed. Have you ever watched that?
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that one. No, what happens?
When the Departed, it's based off of I think it was a Japanese film or Chinese film, but it's the idea is um like you have the gangs, like the Asian mafia or whatever, and they have they have one of their gang members infiltrate the police academy, and then you have the police academy get one of their best detectives infiltrate the gang. So I kind of saw like, oh,
Oh,
I was like,
good
oh, this is
idea.
interesting. When I saw that, I was like, oh, let's see how this
Yeah, it
goes.
adds complexity, it adds interest, it adds you never know when they're gonna show their loyalty or when they're gonna flip, or are they gonna, switch sides? Are they still gonna keep working for who they're working for? I like the dimension that it added, and because people aren't so one dimensional. So I
Well,
think it was just that.
I remember while reading, kind of feeling like my anxiety going up in a good way. It's like, oh, is this character going to get found out? Are they going to get caught? Like,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah,
really,
that's part of it. It's good to like build tension because if you don't have any tension, it kind of can get boring. So I'm good. Yeah, that's the exact like the intended effect. So
and as you're writing it, like, do you like for a fantasy writer? I know everyone has their own methods. Do you go like write on a big board, whiteboard, like your outline, brainstorm, or is it just like you're seeing a vision and you're just like
Writing it,
writing
yeah, it
it?
was a bit of a few different things. I would a lot of times what I would do is I'd either write in like Google Docs or Word, whatever I was writing in, down at the bottom of the page I would have like the plot points or the elements that I would want to have coming up. And sometimes I would just read that and then, fill in the details. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of times I would think about things when I wasn't writing and then work a scene out, and then I'd have to get right to the computer and write it down. Otherwise you forget. So either thinking about it, figuring it out, and then just writing it down right away. That's how I would keep notes. It's just at the bottom of the page, and I'd keep referencing, okay, what's everything that has to happen in this scene? And once I had done all that, I'd erase, that paragraph at the bottom, what has to happen next. So I'm not like a massive note taker, like on sticky notes or handwriting, but I would make notes just on the computer. And you
Okay,
kind of see it too sometimes as you're going, like it might be different for different people, but it would kind of like play as a movie in my head, and I would try to describe as best I could, like what I was seeing
cool.
in the
So,
most like interesting and exciting way, showing people instead of telling them, which is, something that they say a lot in reading, because if you just tell something like, oh, this person was sad, but then, or you can describe it, exactly how their shoulders were moving and how their eyes were. Well, you can describe the scene, and that kind of brings the person more into the action and they feel like they're there.
so now for this part, I want to kind of focus more on your books. Um, and so I have here, I have here book one. I think this is book one, right? Book
E,
book
yep.
one. I have here book two,
Uh-huh.
and thankfully, I have here book three.
Yay. Uh-huh.
So those, I wanted like, what is, how much work did you put in not just writing the book, but also figuring out the covers? Because actually, you have four covers, right? Yeah, you also have the omnibus version.
Yeah, yep, that's this one right here.
So can
For
you like,
Yeah, so for the three you just showed, I worked with two different cover artists. The first and the third look pretty similar, like it has the same image of Rockwheel, but it has, the first one is with the phoenix, so it added that element. And then the third one has the two planets because they end up going off planet. So I just wanted them to
hmm,
have like the main elements. The second one's a little bit different. I wanted to have someone draw that's like a hand drawing kind of, Rockwell's the main character, so I wanted to have him, and I think it has one of the protection devices in it. And then it kind of has a field where the battle kind of takes place, and it's kind of dark and gloomy, kind of foreshadowing that hard, difficult war is coming. And then the omnibus version that had kind of everything. It's got Roku, it's got the Phoenix from the first book. There's the new planet in the back, and then it's got the protection device down here at the corner. So it's just about, having the main elements of the story all be represented. And then he's got kind of this gold collar, which is given to him. And one of the places that they go, someone gifts him this, nice outfit. And so that doesn't happen at first, but I liked showing that outfit off too, because he ends up liking it and keeping it.
so for those who want to pick up your books, um, why should someone read your book?
Good question. Well, if you like fantasy, if you like epic fantasy, if you like elves, I try to keep, there's not too many, like graphic elements or swear words, or, I mean, there's some wars, but there's not huge bloody descriptions. So if you like kind of more PG elements, I'd say this is for you. A lot of things nowadays I think are kind of more graphic or have swear words. So it's pretty like no spice as they call it. There's a little bit of romance, but it's not graphic. So, just if that's your kind of thing, I think you'll like it.
Okay, well, thanks so much. I'm enjoying it. And
Yay, get to the third book.
for you, and I want to kind of conclude it with like a last question. What is your favorite part when it comes to being a fantasy writer? What brings you the most joy when it comes to being an author?
Oh, probably, I was talking about when you kind of work out plot holes in your head or a scene, or I really like envisioning it. And then I'll write the scene and read it back and I'll be like, yeah, this is good. Like actually this is good and people are gonna like it. I like, trying to visualize and create new things. I actually just saw a video clip the other day of this interview with David Bowie. I don't know what year it was from. It was obviously from a while back, but he in this clip was saying how people who are artists or creatives, it's really hard for them to do like commission work, when someone tells them, I want you to paint this or write a book about this or have certain deadlines. He's like, that's when they do their worst work because creativity is kind of spontaneous and you have to wait for inspiration and you have to see. That's why I kind of went with indie publishing versus traditional. I mean, I did look at first when I first published the first Roquille saga, Roquille and the Phoenix. I sent it out to a few agents. Sometimes people will send queries to hundreds and hundreds. I only sent it to maybe like 20 people. No one picked it up, but at that point is when I decided to self-publish because I don't think I could work under, deadlines or with an editor who wants to completely change things or hack things up. Like, I mean, that I'm sure there's lots of people that do and a lot of people that works for them, but I just don't operate like that. Like I have to be inspired. And sometimes I'll write pages and pages and pages in one day, and sometimes I'll go months without writing anything because I don't feel it and I can't force it or else it'll just suck.
Mhm. So, hey, well, thank you so much for sharing and for like letting us see the beauty of fantasy throughout time and also in your life, how it's really impacted you and how it has, I guess, it has sparked you to write your book, The Rookville Saga. Are there any more books that you see coming in the future?
I'm still working on one called Earth Assignment. It's been a long time. The idea was really inspiring to me, but I've had long kind of droughts where I don't know where to take it. So this one's taking me a little bit longer, but I hope to have that one out sometime this year. Yeah.
Okay, and where can people in the audience find your books and even find more information about you online?
Um, on Amazon, you can either just search Tiffany Skylark and they should come up. I have six books out right now, and then the omnibus version. Some of my books I've translated into Spanish, the first two of the Roquille Saga, and then I have a short story book, which has in the same book the English and then the Spanish at the back of the book. I'm also on Instagram. It's Tiffany Read Write Travel. You can look me up on there, and I have a lot of info on my books on there too.
Okay, Tiffany. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your love for fantasy. And for those in the audience, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Creativity Worth Expressing with today's guest, Tiffany Skylark.
Thank you.